Evening and welcome to it. You're on Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Kamalam Unkamza Mata as we tuck into what's been happening as far as the week that's gone by as far as football is concerned. There's CAF in terms of results. There's stuff to look at as far as CAF is concerned, of course, and the big result with the win and the securing of the CAF Champions League by one Pitso Mosimane with Ahly. We'll tuck into that and, of course, look into the results from this past weekend. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, we're going to shine the light again yet on some officiating decisions that were made at the weekend. Let me introduce you to my panel. You know them well by now. I've got Veli Lemnyandu joining me, Mazola Molefe and John T. Mark in the house. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. First and foremost, for Pitso Mosimane, he's acquired yet another CAF Champions League. Some would say, guys, he got there. Pretty much this thing was in the bag. 3 games and he wins it. Is that fair criticism? Who owns this one? Is it Pitso's Champion League trophy, or is it Mr. Vilas who left before Pitso came in to take the job? Let's start with you, Belil.
Well, there are no guarantees. He got there with 3 games to play, and there were no guarantees that you would even win against Wydad in the fashion in which they won against Wydad, especially beating them at home like that in the first leg. If you followed also the history between the two teams, Wydad having had some upper hand before. But I think in the context of Zamalek, I think here we must be honest. Pitso deserves this. Zamalek against Villa, they played 2 matches.
Against Ahly, yeah.
Against Villa, 2 matches. They beat them in the Super Cup. They also beat Ahly in the league. Even though Ahly won the league. So what guarantees are there that had the Swiss coach
been around,
he would have won? There are no guarantees. Credit must go to the men. And even with looking in this game, how also they started, winning earlier, scoring early in the game.
Yeah.
So I just think for me, Pitso deserves the credit, man.
Okay, there we go. We're going to sort out the mics, Davesh. We've got a bit of a technical issue coming through. But Mazola, on the back of what Belil is saying, that he pretty much took a team that they were struggling against, was able to get the results against them, and build on that to what was a strong end to the competition. I guess, consensus amongst all 3 of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go with what Veza is saying, that there are no guarantees. It happens all over the world that managers come in when the job is almost sort of done, and some take the credit. But in this case, with 3 games to go, a lot can happen during that time. The true test for me, I'd say it's next season, definitely. When he's had a preseason. When he's, obviously got his own players that he wants to be in the team, and then going for that Champions League from scratch. Starting from the first round, group stages, all 6 matches, quarterfinals, semis, and you name it. That's the true test, and I think that's why they've hired him and brought him there. I suppose now it's fair to say he's met the mandate because he's won them a Champions League. I mean, look, if he had arrived there and they were going into the final already, I'd say it's 1 game.
Sure.
Maybe credit really should go to the Swiss because he got them that far and he was sacked before he could prove that he can actually go all the way.
Right.
But 3 games, you have coaches here locally at home who win trophies in just 3-4 games, and then they think they've arrived only to get sacked a few months later. So that's the nature of the beast. But for me, the true test, and I think the coach would agree, is for him to start from the beginning and do it all over again with the Egyptian Premier League and the CAF Champions League. Again, Al-Ahly have gone for so long.
Yeah.
I think the last time was when they actually beat our very own Orlando Pirates when they won the Champions League. So they've gone for so long without winning it, and to finally have the first non-Egyptian African coach to actually deliver it is quite an achievement. But having said that, can Coach Pitso prove his doubters wrong and do it again when he started from scratch, had a transfer window, had pre-season, and what now they are calling Pitso ball in Egypt, if he can finesse it nicely from the start of the season.
John T, I guess he does benefit from what is quite a nice onboarding situation. You come into a team that are strong, are capable. You put your lick of paint on them just to end off the season on a high. But now, with all this energy and momentum, like Mazola said, you can go into the off-season planning better for the next campaign. What do you think he's brought to the Egyptians?
Well, I think he's obviously brought the nous of having won the Champions League. He did it. He beat Zamalek in the final with Sundowns. You know, and I think it's not really fair to sort of say, oh, Pitso only played 3 games. I mean, it's not his fault. He was offered the job, win us the Champions League, and he did it. And they hadn't won it, as Mazola just mentioned, in 7 years. Hadn't won it since 2013 when they beat Pirates. René Weiler, sure, and I think to Pitso's credit, he has mentioned Weiler in his press conferences and has said that he knows he only took over in the semis, and he knows, you know, that, and a lot of the players, you know, played under Weiler, but I think that he's done well. He's done amazingly well. They hammered Wydad. They didn't just beat them in the semis. 5-1 on aggregate is a thumping. And yeah, they recovered from Shikabala's amazing goal in the final to find the winner, to find the strength. And I think what Pitso's also done well, I don't know if we're going to touch on it later, is to bring in a team of people that he knows. Cabello Ranhuaja, I don't know if I said that right, but Ranhuaja, I tried. You know, the fitness trainer. Whether that, I was a bit simplistic to say they scored a late goal because they were fitter because of KB, but I don't, you know, that sounds.
But yeah, no, you can
whether
piece
it
it
is
together.
or not, I don't know.
It's a periodization issue also, you know.
Muzi Matlaba, the performance analyst, you know, and Kevin. I mean, Kevin's never worked with Pitso before in a club coaching level, but the two have he's obviously come in and contributed his bit. Not in terms of dancing. I saw in the video after the game, Kevin was not dancing. Pitso was dancing.
Yeah.
Kevin chose to sit and not dance. But in terms of what he's contributed, obviously he's added, and I think that's the cleverness of Pitso. He knew he couldn't maybe, you know, it was a big job for him, so he didn't want to do it on his own. So he brought people he's familiar with.
Yeah, and he can trust.
And then they were able to get the result that the club wanted. I mean, it's quite clear they wanted the Champions League again, and they'll want it again. And that's the pressure of coaching Ahly. You know, if you don't win it, it's often see you later.
Yeah. No, there we go. There we go. Gents, we're going to carry on with this conversation. Yeah. I just want to sort out this technical issue about establishing Yakbona. So we're going to take a short little break, after which we continue with Monday Night Football. Don't go too far. Use that hashtag MNF on Soweto TV. Welcome back. Okay, let's find out as far as the composition of the team that Pitso Mosimane had put together to go to Egypt and take on this Herculean task of making sure Al Ahly finish the season with a big bang, as they've done. And there's still another cup competition still to come, Velile. But let's talk about the likes of Umusi, Kabelo, who obviously from Sundowns went with him. Kevin was a bit of a strange one because we hadn't seen them work together at a club level. And so it was an interesting choice, but he seems to have kind of constructed a team that's able to deliver.
Yeah, I think what is important, if you remember when Pitso arrived there, he was complaining a lot about injuries and all those things. And at that time, in terms of conditioning, they had just arrived. So whatever that they were doing, it was based on the team he had inherited, you know, and also even the prioritization of the players as well, you know. But with the injuries, when he got there and he complained about this, and he lost out a number of star players, and at some stage he brought in some young stars, you know, who were part of the reserve team. And I remember this other day talking to a journalist in Egypt, and I was saying, Pitso, he was questioning, Pitso is said to be bringing an analyst, so what is going to happen to the analyst who's already here?
Right.
I said, no. He works with 3-4 analysts.
Right.
So actually, you need to employ more.
Yeah. Job creation.
Yeah, exactly. But now, this is the kind of technical team that Pitso... You know, Jondi was referring to something about the game. Zamalek dominated the game, especially after Al Ahly scored first. Zamalek dominated, they had better chances. But I think until the 60th minute, it was then Sundowns. you could see that Zamalek have run out of steam.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
now this is a coach who is endorsing modern trends, who's endorsing sports science
Right.
in the game. Because now the conditioning we're talking about, this is where Kabelo comes in. You must see his season planner, you know, how he plans for the season. The document on paper in terms of the prioritization plan. So these are some of the things. And also you talk about Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson also has got a huge influence. Also, I was talking about the Pitso ball. Those 42 passes that we saw in one of the league games that they played.
Yes.
You know, so now this is where you see how they complement each other as well. Because one of the things when you go back to the game, you could see that they were missing 3 key players. I think Goma was one of them, but one of the players they missed the most was Ali Odeng. In the midfield.
Right.
Remember, they tested positive for COVID just a few days before the game. And this is one of the players that they were missing.
Right.
But they turned that situation around in the second half. So that's where you see that an element of sports science, an element of good planning in terms of analyzing the opponent comes into effect. But also an element of experience as well, having been at this level. Remember, Pitso, this was his 4th win against Zamalek. He's only lost once against them, and even that loss against them, against Zamalek, it was a meaningless loss because it meant that on aggregate they had won 3-1 at Sundowns.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of positives, failing which now the latest is that the entire board of Zamalek has been
Culled.
suspended.
Huh.
You know, has been suspended, pushed aside. An interim board has been by the Minister of Sport in Egypt on charges of financial irregularities. You know, so
When it rains, it pours.
Pitso's influence again, because it's because of the result.
Right.
You know, but also just a bit to touch on. We must also understand that Captain Bibo, who's currently the president of Al Ahly, you know, back in 1982, he won the CAF Champions League as a player.
Right.
Now he's winning it as a president, and he is the one when Vela left. He's the one who was saying, "There's only one man who can do this for us. It's Pitso Mosimane." So I hope that all those doomsayers and doubting Thomases now understand that this man was taken to do this job because, according to the club president, he is the only one on the continent or anywhere around who could do it. Yeah.
There we go. Well put. Well, let's talk about African adventures because it happened for Bloem Celtic and Kaizer Chiefs at the weekend, both of them getting results on their travels. But I guess, you know, when you look on the side of Chiefs, it was always a bit, you were wondering, was this going to be an opportunity for them to bounce back having lost in the league? Is it one of those results where you come away thinking less pressure, we can build on this, you know, Matoho gets on the score sheet, Kune saves a penalty. Could that be the air that they needed their back just to kind of help, you know, iron out the season?
Yeah, because it's a win, I suppose you could say that. But on the, you know, the balance of play, I can't say I didn't see it.
You didn't see the game. I saw it from a very bad camera angle.
I
It
also
was
saw
very
a
tough.
few minutes of it from a bad camera, and I said, "This is hurting my eyes. No thanks. I'll watch TTM and cheaper. Thank you very
But it's
much."
like HD, yeah?
You know, so look, but I think on the result alone, you know, you'd think it's a morale booster. Although they've reported a casualty now with Rama pulling a hamstring at halftime. You know, so he'll be unavailable for the return leg and potentially the Black Leopards game the next week and maybe a few more. So, and even just listening to the coach's post-match reaction, he's talking about we still have strikers that don't score. You know, you look now, Chiefs have played 9 games, you know, and they've not really been you know, clinical in front of goal. You know, apart from that game against Golden Arrows where Castro scored twice. But it's a big issue. But you know, when you're traveling on the continent and also the long hours, I mean, they went from South Africa to Addis Ababa to Douala and then 77 kilometers to Limbe, you know. So that takes its toll, and obviously the heat as well. So you can't really say, you only just take the win for what it is. And I mean, there was an interview that was on kickoff where there was an interview with Roger Fetumba, who obviously knows the team well, even though they're newcomers and whatever. He said there can't be any match for Chiefs, you know. And judging from the coach's post-match reaction, you could hear that they were really nowhere.
Yeah.
Even that penalty, it sounds like it was a dodgy penalty.
Right.
You know, should have never been. And Gavin was saying they are lucky they scored so late that, you know, the refereeing, you know, the bad officiating only came in with after the goal and with only a few minutes left, so that they don't do too much damage. Can you imagine if Chiefs scored in the first half?
Yeah.
You know, the dodginess would have prevailed from the onset. You know,
Hey man, don't say that. They run a tight ship like CAF. I think.
So yeah, let's see. I think the return leg they'll be at home, a bit more comfortable. Crucial away goal. But yeah, Gavin's biggest concern is still that his strikers are not hitting the back of the net.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, John T, in the greater scheme of things, we can look at this result and be grateful for the confidence it might add to the Chiefs squad, but is it what they need considering the kind of season they're set to have, not being able to bring in new faces, being able to, you know, obviously make a title charge? It doesn't seem like they have enough to do that. Is this maybe another path to silverware?
To silverware, that's a reach. It's a long way. It's a long way to silverware.
You don't think
like
they're
you said,
capable?
they can't strengthen their squad. So I don't know.
This is a squad that almost won the league.
Well, yeah, but the Champions League is a whole different kettle of fish, and I don't know. But to boost their confidence, yes, as Mazona mentioned, we couldn't really. I also tried for a few minutes to watch that game.
Yeah, it was tough.
From some strange camera angle from the stands, but you couldn't really analyze anything properly. So it was you really had to go by what Gavin said, and he mentioned the penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty. Reminded me a bit of Senzo with Pirates when he had to save 2 penalties, I think, against Mazembe. So that you can get sort of these decisions going against you on the continent. They should be able to finish the job. Of course, if they don't finish the job at FNB Stadium on Friday or I think it's on Friday, and then they you know, that they won't get any confidence boost from the result in Limbe. But if they can finish the job, I think it's good for them. I think it'd be good for them because Chiefs have never been in the group stages of the Champions League. I think just getting to the group stages would be an achievement for them this season, given that they've got a transfer ban and given the situation domestically where they are struggling. I think if they can get there, it can help. And I don't think playing more matches is necessarily a problem for them. They've still got a squad, even if it's not as big as they'd like it to be. So I think they would benefit from a good run. If they get past this game, I think it's Primero de Agosto, the Angolan champions, which is not going to be an easy game for them.
For sure.
But I think that I think they can benefit. And any game that they win at the moment, given what's happening to them on the domestic front, has to help. Although it's no guarantee they'll then come out and beat Black Leopards in their next league game.
It's not. Nothing is a guarantee. But let's look at Bloem Celtic. They got a good result, and they pretty much took what was not their first 11 per se, but to send a team that are your second 11 and still manage to get a 2-0 victory without your head coach even being there. We'll get into that in a few moments' time. But, you know, in terms of the results, it's a good one as well there for them to build on. And, you know, Bloem Celtic, the form that they're in, the culture that you kind of feel now that they can beat anybody on their day, they show it again.
Mm-hmm. Just quickly to touch on this game. I was just disappointed with that CAF. For me, you see, if you are coming with rules, implement them. You know, don't put something and then say, if you're saying play behind closed doors, play behind closed doors.
Sure.
Because there was a large crowd there in the stadium. You know, and then I checked in the other game. There was a game played in Lesotho as well.
Yeah.
Nkana, I think we were playing Bantu FC in Lesotho,
Sure.
and there was a large crowd there as well.
Right.
You know, all around the stadium, especially in that game. So that was a bit disturbing. Now leading to, is Chiefs going to have spectators this coming weekend? You know, for the second leg. Yeah. That should be very interesting. Right. If CAF is allowing it, so that should be very interesting. Because it turns out to be an advantage also for the home team. You know? So
but I suppose, is it not more on the regulations of the
government?
No. It's got nothing to do with the country.
So CAF can override what the country says there's no sport.
No.
Right now.
No. But remember, CAF, what happened in the qualifiers, a country can apply
Right.
an FA can apply.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
In this case.
Okay.
For instance, as journalists, we're not allowed
Yes.
to attend the PSL matches. But in
can
the
attend
CAF
the
regulations for the interclub competitions and also for the AFCON qualifiers, CAF regulations allow journalists to be at the stadium, allow broadcasters to be at the stadium, but a minimum number. You understand? So this is not PSL football.
Yeah, but I think that's a different argument.
yeah,
as opposed to spectators
but
versus
spectators,
the media.
spectators,
Different thing.
spectators, you can apply.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about the number that was there.
I feel like it would be denied in our country.
I don't think
it's an
SAFA
issue
will
of
apply
it's an issue of monitoring when it comes to CAF.
Yeah.
No. But remember, when Tunisia played against Tanzania in Tanzania, 50% capacity was allowed.
So we haven't even done that for our local games yet. So do you think we'd go to that stage?
No.
where it's
I don't think Chiefs through SAFA, because remember, whatever you do, you have to apply it through SAFA.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
So I don't think
Body.
SAFA also even didn't apply for the matches that they held.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
just that.
unlikely.
Because it
Yeah.
seems
It's
like it's been
unlikely.
guided by the governments. Whatever the country
Yeah.
is saying,
It's unlikely.
then let's at least roll with that and not rock the ship.
Because I don't think
No,
I don't
but-
think,
but-
I don't think
but-
SAFA would go and upset the country, now,
Yeah.
the government, to say,
No.
we
But
want
what
to
I'm
say
saying,
this.
no. I think the point here must not be about here at home. The point is about CAF monitoring.
Yes.
You understand?
They're not being aware. They're not staying.
yes. Because according to the information I have,
Yes.
there was no permission
For them to have.
for that club to allow
But they
fans.
opened
Okay.
the gates.
You understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hear you,
So
I
that
hear you.
is the point.
For sure.
Yeah, that is the
So
point.
you think a fine might be coming?
Yeah.
It has to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, if CAF is not monitoring, I mean, who opens the gates? Because the issue was talking about only 200 people who are allowed inside.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So this is the this is
CAF
the
can't
issue. Here.
monitor maladministration at the high level. Are they gonna bother with spectators on the ground?
Yeah, but this is important. If you want to be taken serious,
Yes, I
and
agree.
you put out the rules, implement the rules. You know. But on the
And then the rules with the coaching and the badges, and whether people are qualified to be on the bench.
let's listen to the man who wrote the story.
I mean, I also think that if you, before Mazola cuts in there,
I will share my bit.
Yeah.
if you want to be taken seriously, don't allow the only broadcast of your game to be what looks like somebody with a cell phone in the middle of the stands. I mean, sort your TV rights issue out. We've discussed this before, but you want to be taken seriously, then get your house in order. It's a bit of a mess,
Yeah.
isn't it?
But you know what happened with this game? Remember, for the prelim games, the prelim games, it's up to the clubs to organize TV. But then for when you get to the group stages, that's when. So for this game, I know that Chiefs and SABC, they were working on something, but in that place there was no satellite.
Okay. Well, we're going to go with where the conversation goes. We want to get those details from you, Mazola, because you did write the story. So what we're going to do is take a short little break, after which M&F on Soweto TV, put a hashtag in front of it if you want to speak to us. We'll continue with myself, Kamombata, and my panel. See you now. Welcome back. Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Sehangapa nangapa, because we've just been discussing what happens as far as the coaches and their qualifications to be able to sit on the bench during CAF competition. Now, Mazola, when it comes to Mr. Maduka, is it a case of he had sent the second team so he didn't need to go? Or CAF like, or
Yeah.
break it down for us.
Look, funny enough, we touched on this, but I don't think it was on air. It was off air when Veli was saying last week Monday that a lot of top coaches are not going to be on the. I think you're talking about that. Like they won't be on the bench because of the new. It's not a new rule.
It's just newly enforced.
Newly enforced by,
Right.
by the football mother body on the continent, that coaches who participate, well, clubs who participate in inter-club competitions, their coaches must have, the CAF A license.
Okay.
And as it turns out, Gavin's got a UEFA A.
Okay.
Joseph Zinbauer's got a UEFA Pro license.
Okay.
John Maduka, from my understanding, he doesn't have CAF A or UEFA A or UEFA Pro.
What does he
Okay.
have?
What does he have?
He's trying to bend me. I don't know what he has. Maybe
What does
he
he have?
knows.
Do you know?
Maybe he knows. Do you know?
I don't know. I need to ask him.
No, you're being mischievous. Yes.
He's
No,
being
no,
mischievous.
no. When it comes to
Because-
information, information has not been accurate.
Okay.
Because I asked somebody else,
Yes.
and he said he does have a KFA license.
Okay.
Okay.
Because he went to a coaching course with someone who got the A license.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
far as you know.
until we get,
Look,
Yeah,
Look,
when
there was
otherwise.
a story written by our colleague Timothy Mulobi in the City Press as well.
Yes.
He tried to also get to the bottom of does John have the CAF A license or not?
Yeah.
And he asked the Bloem Celtic CEO
Right.
whether the coach has it or not, and he couldn't give him a straight answer. What does that say?
Yeah, no,
The-
for sure.
you'd
If you
think-
have it, you can answer.
You'd think a CEO would say,
Yeah.
no, my coach
Has the
qualified,
thing.
he complies.
Exactly.
You know, but as it turns out, look, I have it on the record from the SAFA CEO that John Maduka does not have a CAF A license. It's in the story.
Yeah.
You know, unless maybe the CEO has the wrong information, but I highly doubt it. You
For
know?
sure.
So on the back of that, Chiefs then wrote to CAF along with Pirates to
Yes.
ask for a waiver
Right.
because their coaches do have high qualifications, but,
But
they're
not
just
the
not
specific
the
ones.
specific ones.
Okay.
So after, I think there was a small hearing,
Yeah.
and on the 11th hour, on Saturday, I think Saturday morning or Saturday evening, Gavin was then given the green light because he had already traveled with Chiefs to Cameroon.
Okay.
Was given the green light to then sit on the bench on Sunday.
Okay.
You
So
know.
is this waiver for just this
wa-
round of games? or for,
I was getting there.
yeah.
The waiver is for the remainder of this season's
Okay.
Champions League or
Okay.
Interclub,
Yeah.
CAF Confed and Champions League. But next season, these coaches, if they are still in charge of these teams, or any coach for that matter, that is part of the Interclub competitions, must have a CAF A license. The Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they are sorted.
Yeah, but you see, the rules.
Yeah.
I've seen the rules of CAF.
Uh-huh.
The rules say if you are coming from outside Africa, or you got your qualification outside Africa, you must have a UEFA Pro license.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you must have a CONCACAF Pro license, AFC, or even CONMEBOL.
But the pro is the key
The
part.
pro license.
Right.
So that one, it's just that you have to submit those papers
Yeah.
to CAF so that you can then be exempted. Otherwise, if you don't have a pro license, you're coming from outside,
Yeah.
you must have an A license.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not even UEFA A
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
enough.
Which is why,
Yeah.
sorry to cut in, which is why I would then assume Pirates then applied for a waiver because they say, no, the pro license trumps
Right.
everything because, like what he's saying with the CAF
Yeah.
manual, the pro license should allow you to go ahead.
Sure.
In the case of Zenbawa.
Sure.
Gavin's still not safe because he does not have a CAF A license. He only has the UEFA A license.
Okay.
You know, and
Okay.
the SAFA CEO has said moving forward, both, you know, it sounds like which is then we would have to fact-finding mission about the actual manual as to opposed to what CAF is now saying to SAFA. The SAFA CEO is saying they've been informed by CAF
Yes.
in a letter written to the mother body to say all coaches next season must have a CAF A license, even if they have a CAF Pro license. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
There could be
Nuh-uh.
miscommunication
Yeah,
there.
no. I will show you
Yeah.
the CAF
Yeah.
CAF document.
Yeah.
If you've got a UEFA Pro or a CONMEBOL Pro, then you are fine. You just have to submit those papers.
And
So
proof.
then proof to CAF because what they do then once you've submitted, because remember with the coaching licenses, you will do one maybe in Dublin or you'll do another one in Zagreb. So they are going to call where you qualified.
Sure.
You understand?
To verify.
To verify. And remember this as well. Yeah, you have to prove, you know. But also, you know what? In our first class of CAF A license back in 2011, Ernst Mirendorp, a holder of a UEFA Pro,
Right.
he went to do the course of CAF A license. He was with Pitso Mosimane there. He was Steve Khombela, Mandla Ncikazi, Dr. Kumalo, Abednego, and you know,
Yeah.
I think.
It just seems
Yeah,
like
yeah. He was with them.
Yeah.
And you know his remarks, according to the former SAFA TD, Serame Litswaka, his remarks, he was saying, wow, I didn't know. I thought, you know what?
I knew
Why?
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought, wow, why am I part of this?
Yeah.
Because I've got UEFA Pro.
Yeah,
Sure.
which
But
is supposed
but
to
I got
be-
he
taught
said
some things.
he
Superior.
learned a lot,
Yeah.
you know, especially about African football. And because remember, at that time, when it was our first one, and I think there were about 33 coaches
Right.
who qualified out of that. So CAF is about here stamping their authority.
Yes.
You know, to say yes, you can come from another continent, but here on this continent,
This is how it's done.
this is how it's
I
done.
think also the conversation should go further into the whole club licensing debate here in our own backyard
Right.
as well. SAFA must then make sure they enforce
They take a big stick and they enforce.
they enforce this
requirements, yeah.
requirements as well, to say you can't have. I mean, we've been going on and on about Matsimela Toka jokingly, but the reality is that he's not qualified. He's not near qualified
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
to sit on that Baroka bench.
Okay.
And I think with club licensing requirements and all of that, having spoken to the SAFA CEO today, he does give a hint that it's going to take some robust debates to actually pass it and enforce it and have the league. Because you remember, the mother body, when it comes to controlling the league, their hands are tied to some degree. But at the same time, they've got the support of CAF, who can then help them enforce this. It's high time that we have coaches that have got... Look, someone can come and say, yeah, but you can have a pro license, but then you can barely get your players to string 2 passes together.
Right.
But I think we shouldn't be that naive.
Yeah.
You
These
know.
things are there for a reason.
These things are there for a reason.
For sure.
Toka Matsimela will tell you he was within a few seconds of beating UEFA Pro license holding Joseph Zimbabwe.
And he'll have a point. And he'll have a point. And he'll have a point. He'll have a point. Well, that's what he got in
But
the
I
end.
do agree in
A point.
principle. You've got to have the qualifications, and there has to be a standard. Otherwise, it's a free for all.
Exactly, it becomes a Wild West. Yeah, okay, well, let's move on to a bit of congratulatory news as far as the under-17 side are concerned. Of course, winning the under-17 COSAFA in a penalty shootout. In the end, it means they qualify along with the other finalists for the CAF tournament for the under-17s. But yeah, just it's nice to see when a coach is given time to put together a squad. Not enough time.
There was not enough
Last
time.
year you got
this
1
team,
week.
This
Yeah.
team, just 3 weeks before the tournament,
Right.
this team was still...
It's better than a week. They got a week last time.
No, they were still selecting players.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
But the other day was with the acting CEO with SAFA, and we spoke about these things, and he agrees, But there are also a lot of other factors as well. Amateur football has not been playing.
Sure.
So it's also going to be difficult, these things. But what we must get into is that we must move away from a point where the teams only get to have camps when they're going to play in a tournament or they're preparing for a game.
Yeah.
When you are coaching junior national teams, you are not bounded by
the schedule
international
of the professional
week.
teams, yes. Yeah.
So these are the teams that in the 4 quarters of the year, or at least maybe bi-monthly, they must have training camps.
Sure.
To monitor them. Because it becomes difficult now. Because you have your core squad as well. But having said that, it's good to see what Coach Vela has done with this team in terms of qualifying to the AFCON. Remember, the team has not been to the AFCON for some time now.
Right.
Because in the last qualifier, only 1 team was allowed, but now CAF has increased the teams from 8 to 12.
Okay.
So now they've qualified. But I think it's a good thing. And also they've beaten a strong Zambian team.
Sure.
They had beaten us in the semi-final. Technically, yesterday's game was a draw because it went to penalties.
Of course, yeah.
But look, somebody has
In
to
the
be
end.
crowned
Yeah, exactly.
at the end of the day. So I think this is where we have to credit the coach and his technical team here for achieving this result, and also fine young men that Mduduzi Shabalala coming from Kaizer Chiefs, a very good attacker, we have to say, and congratulations to him as well for getting the player of the tournament.
Right.
And he will be going to Spain now.
Because of the memorandum of understanding with La Liga, huh?
Yeah. And I think he might not come back.
Good for him.
If
good for
it
him.
does things.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
come back.
Okay, well, on that congratulatory tone, let's talk about how Natim Tetwa, the minister, came through and congratulated, I guess, Banyana Banyana, 500,000 Rand check for them to celebrate their success at the COSAFA. These little kind of moments where, they lavish the praise on them. Is that enough, or do you think something more consistent is required as far as the women's team is concerned? Let's start with you, John.
Well, look, I think equal pay across football is a good thing in principle. I think that it's something that's global. We've seen it with the US team, I think. We've seen it in other countries. It's tricky because obviously when you're talking salaries, you look at the value that the sponsorships
Right.
and all these other things, and yet women's football is in a sense in a more developmental stage than men's football. So, do you not reward that? So it's tricky for me, but in principle, I totally agree with equal pay, and I think it's great that the sports ministry has given the 500,000 rand to Banyana to help them. They've certainly, it's not just the CASAFA, they've obviously played in their first ever World Cup. They've played in 2 straight Olympics, although they missed out on Tokyo. So they have had a lot of success and perhaps haven't got the reward that they deserve for that success.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of, obviously, players that have got to go to play in Europe now and are doing very well. So there's that as well. But I think it's definitely a nice reward for them, and I think that hopefully there can be more. But in the longer term, just a one-off payment is maybe not,
Sufficient and
ideal. It
sustainable.
would be better if they could find a more consistent spot. Obviously, Sasol have been on board, but it would be great if they could find more sponsors and more backing for the team on a more consistent level. Although in this time, it's not exactly easy, the easiest time to find sponsorships.
For sure, in the economy. But let's talk about that, Mazola. It seems like everyone's kind of, corporate must play a part. No, government must come to the table. No. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that our female footballers are looked after, paid equitably, and, are rewarded for what they output on the pitch continuously, because they're the most consistent?
Yeah, look, I think ultimately it comes down to the mother body, Easier said than done, yes, I'll admit that, but it comes down to the employers, essentially. I mean, you look at examples in the USA and in Brazil, where the federations have said equal pay for the men's national team and the women's national team across the board.
Right.
I think that's setting the tone and setting the stage. Whether the rest of the world will follow, it's still up for debate. Almost every international break or every time a women's team here at home or on the continent or abroad plays, the issues of salaries and inequalities comes up as they have over the years. But I think the USA and Brazil have set the benchmark, to say, look, compare Mata and Neymar, all you like, or Firmino and the stars in the women's team in the Brazilian. It doesn't matter. From now on, they're going to get paid the same. You take Christian Pulisic and you take Alex Morgan, paid the same.
Right. Especially for national duty.
Yeah,
It kind of just makes sense.
And also, I think the debate there, you have to still, like what Jonty is saying, on sponsors and the level of it. I mean, Christian Pulisic plays for Chelsea, Alex Morgan plays for Spurs.
Right.
Mata has won the Women's Footballer of the Year for how many years? So you still have those comparisons. Banyana Banyana have only just recently played at their first ever World Cup. But I think, having said all of that, I think ultimately it boils down to it's the mother body's responsibility.
Okay, well, talk to us. You know that hashtag, folks, of MNF on Soweto TV. We're going to take a little break. After that, siyabuya, veli. I hope you have some thoughts on this one. We're going to get them from you after we take a short little break. It's Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Welcome back. We are on the home straight towards the end of the show. But before we go any further, thank you so much for your tweets coming in on the hashtag of MNF on Soweto TV. I'm going to read out a couple in a few moments, but not before we get your thoughts on this one, Velile, as far as when it comes to a national team, paying the men and the women's teams the same. Obviously, I can't imagine that it's probably the same principle when it comes to a private company deciding to pay their female players less or more than their male players. What's your take on it?
Yeah, look, Sapphire has already said that they are preparing to go that route.
Okay.
In terms of equal pay. But I think one of the challenges they are having, like Mazola was also saying, that their source of revenue for women's football is coming from Sasol,
right?
But also there's also funding that comes from FIFA as well. You'll recall even now, I think there's an amount of money, it's around 500,000 USD that they're expecting from FIFA. I understand that I think they're going to get that amount in January next year. You know,
Split in
yes. So there's that funding, but that funding is not just for the national team only.
Right.
It's for women's football programs
overall.
you know. So it is a tricky situation as to, because I was looking at the figures that EFF is talking about, and for me, I'm saying the political party, maybe instead of going to the streets,
Exactly, or
they,
to
they,
Safa House.
yes, as a lawmaker,
Yeah.
they should start that conversation in parliament.
Sure.
Because SAFA doesn't even, from the information I have, they don't even receive 5% of their annual spending from government. You know, so maybe government should come in and help here.
Yeah.
You know, and I was looking at the amounts of 90,000 rands bonus. Bafana player gets how much? 60,000 for a win, 30,000, and there's no appearance fee.
Right.
And EFF talks about the appearance fee. But I think this is where political parties, they need to have a sports desk.
Sure.
So that they will be informed in terms of research and when they talk about these things. But look, this also talks to, because remember, even the National Women's League is an amateur league. You know? And once it becomes professional, it will also stop being a SAFA baby. Because SAFA is not there to administer professional football,
sure.
but to administer amateur football.
Right.
You know, but
So the sooner it gets to being professional, the better.
yeah. Especially when they've got TV coverage. This is one of the things that we must escalate now. You know, when there's TV coverage, they must drive it to be professional. But then, when it's professional now, it's a franchise. You know, so these are the conversations. I'm interested because before the old Morocco Solos went away, when they were relegated, they had a women's team.
Right.
You know, so I'm interested to see, and I'm talking to Chairman David Makashwa. I hope that he will come back, la Soweto, atoli team yosisi. Even if it means adopt a team,
Sure.
yase Dube or Morocco, you know, then we'll have 3 teams:
Sure.
Celtic, Sundowns, and we hope that the 2 giants also here in Soweto will follow suit.
Yeah, for sure. It takes one to start, I guess.
Because that will also drive corporate.
Sure.
Because
To get involved.
exactly. Imagine a Kaizer Chiefs that plays on Saturday night, the men's team in the PSL, and then they play Orlando Pirates women's team on Sunday.
Yeah.
You will have the stadium packed.
Sure. No, it's got all the makings of being a credible and, worthwhile venture. But we'll see how that one pans out. Let's have a look now in terms of the results from the weekend as far as the DStv Premiership was concerned. And as you can see there, Maritzburg United losing 2-1 to Supersport United. And TX Galaxy and Arrows playing a 1-1 draw. Baroka drawing with Orlando Pirates, of course. Mamelodi Sundowns putting Stellenbosch to the sword, 3-0. Cape Town City and Amazulu another draw. And then on Sunday, if you hadn't had enough of draws, another one between Chippa United and TTM. Let's talk, because there's a lot of meat as far as the officiating, guys. Let's start with the City and Amazulu match.
There's a great story, well, depending how you look at it.
Yeah.
Great story that we did today, where joint committees is having a full go on the match officials, because remember, it's that game where
Yes, for sure.
Majoro was adjudged
Outside
to be,
the box and then a judge to be inside.
exactly, and then City punished from that, and John is absolutely hammering. And also a newly elected member of the PSL Exco, mind
I'd
you.
like to know, what is he saying at the Exco meetings about this?
Exactly, so he's hammering, the officials. He's saying it's appalling. Either the referee is either blind or he's cheating. And he said he's had a word with the chairman, and the chairman has indicated that VAR could be coming to South Africa soon, and he hopes it speedily comes, because obviously he feels his team were robbed of an opportunity to get maximum points, or they had to fight hard to try and claw their way back into that game. So look, I mean, it's been an ongoing debate, and I think for the most part, it must be said that the match officials have been substandard. They've been below par, and it's been going on for some time. Just the other week, we were talking about the supposed costs of the VAR. I had done a story, I think, sometime last year, where I was told around 30-40 million. Velile was saying he heard 80 million. So, so we keep getting amounts being thrown about, which only means it just takes even longer.
Yeah, for sure.
For us to get VAR here, but it's clear that it's needed. I mean, Velile made an example, I think last week, talking about our rival leagues on the continent that have VAR,
Sure.
and we are claiming to be the best on the continent. But instead we have weekly launches about, this DSTV, this DSTV, that DSTV.
Where's
that,
the money for
where's the money
VAR?
to get VAR?
I hear you. But let's also, that's the problem, isn't it, Jonty? Is that it's not just one game. I mean, that's the one game. There was the other one with Supersport in Maritzburg. The officiating there also just didn't make sense. Judas Mosimane scores a decent goal. He's on side. I mean, there's so many things in that game.
The ball touches
A player on Supersport United as a last touch.
Well, seconds later, Grobler scores and he's offside, isn't
Exactly,
he? Yeah, so it's like, it's crazy. It does make sense to have VAR. The VAR is imperfect. We see it in other leagues. It's not. People
But it
complain about
removes the pressure
VAR, but
from
it
the
does
referees,
remove
yeah?
some of the pressure from ref. I think that's also, I mean, there was this, was it a Pirates where the guy was fouled outside the box and a penalty was given as well? And it's just chaotically bad refereeing. But this isn't like, obviously, the first season that we've had that. I think the standard of refereeing has been a bit ropey.
Yeah.
Since in the 20 years I've covered the football in South Africa, it's not been great. And I think there's always this endless thing about SAFA control the referees, and the PSL talked at one point about getting their own referees and professionalising the situation. And, I think that's one thing, that could be looked at again. Because, if they're not...
Takes money for that, Jonty.
Yeah, I know it takes money, but if you want a professional situation, then put some money into it. Because these guys are not... Some of them... it's not fair, and it's a very difficult job.
Okay.
I've tried to ref one match. I was hopeless. It's a really difficult job. But these are guys who are like paid to do it, and they need to sort of perform better, because it's shocking when Komitas has every right to rant, but it's shocking when decision after decision, every weekend we end up talking about, this happened. It's not good. And for Maritzburg as well, struggling at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
Trying desperately to get that first win. They score a perfectly good goal, and the next thing they concede a goal that should have been ruled out, and they've lost the game. Is that fair? That's completely not fair.
No phones.
And even this idea of things evening themselves out throughout the season, you'd rather that the standard was
get it right,
just a lot better.
No, let's just get it right. Let's just get it right. Guys, I have to ask you, because we're running out of time and the transfer window is closing, obviously, this evening. Stavage, any movement?
I want to talk about VAR.
Because there's no transfer news.
Yeah, I want to talk about, I want to talk about VAR.
for the transfer.
I think for me, I want to agree with what Mazola is also saying. For me, this is about the credibility of our league.
Of course.
If we're going to have this week in, week out, and when you look at these things, there's only one solution. It's the VAR.
For sure. Can we have something that's not VAR but does the same thing? Are we allowed to?
No. I think
provide
now. I think now.
replays
I think
and
now.
assistance?
We must also look at this. Some of our officials are on the FIFA panel.
Right.
This past week, in the final, Zakele Siwela was part of the VAR team.
Yeah.
And the person there at CAF who is leading the VAR project is also the person who's part of the SAFA refereeing. Our former referee Jerome Damon. You understand? Yeah. So already. We are advanced in terms of implementing this.
We know what it takes.
Sure.
Yes. So I think now what is important, and we saw during the bubble, how effective can it be when SAFA and PSL work together.
Sure.
I think it's high time that they deliver this project of the VAR. Because if you can sort out that element, and I'm also longing for the day where club officials, including club owners, they will also come out when they benefit from these decisions, and not only come out when they go against them.
Okay, there we go. Hashtag help the refs. It's as simple as that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. That's all we have time for in this condensed rundown of what's been happening as far as South African football is concerned. Gaston Sereno, before I'm being asked to ask, is he going? Is he leaving? They have until December?
Not today. There's 6 more days to go.
Right.
But let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, but he made that clear. He wants to leave.
He wants to leave. Yeah. Do they keep a player who doesn't want to be there?
If I was Patrice Motsepe, Sundowns president, and I'm looking to be the next CAF president, and I would improve my relations with Ahly, and be in the good books, and get the backing of the Egyptian FA, and do the right thing.
Sell him.
Sell him.
Okay, there we go.
He doesn't want
That's
to
all we
play
have
for
time for. Thank you very much, gents. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. From myself, Kamza Mbata, and everybody here, have a good evening. Take care. Sharp.